So it is a pleasure to introduce the Ambassador of Malaysia. Ambassador Dr. Abdul Malik Melvin Castelino has been serving the Malaysian government and the Malaysian Foreign Service for 22 years. Has a Bachelor of Management from the University Science of Malaysia and holds a Diploma of Public Administration from the National Institute of Public Administration. Apart from serving as Ambassador of Malaysia in the Republic of Italy, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Malik is also concurrently accredited to the Republic of Kosovo and the Republic of San Marino. He previously held the post of Special Officer to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia. Throughout his career, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Malik has served in the High Commission of Malaysia in London, United Kingdom, and the High Commission of Malaysia in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much for your time, and I give the floor to the Ambassador. Okay, perfect. So first of all, thank you so much, Ambassador, for being here. It is with the utmost pleasure that I want to introduce the Ambassador of Malaysia. Ambassador Dr. Abdul Malik Melvin Castelino has been serving in the Malaysian government and in the Malaysian Foreign Service for 22 years. He has a Bachelor of Management from the University Science of Malaysia and holds a Diploma of Public Administration from the National Institute of Public Administration. Apart from serving as Ambassador of Malaysia to the Republic of Italy, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Malik is also concurrently accredited to the Republic of Kosovo and the Republic of San Marino. He previously held the post of Special Officer to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia. Throughout his career, His Excellency Dr. Abdul Malik has served in the High Commission of Malaysia in London, United Kingdom, and the High Commission of Malaysia in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for being here and for your time. I leave the floor to the Master. Thank you. If you want, I think the microphone, otherwise this one. That's perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Buongiorno a tutti. Good morning. First and foremost, allow me to thank the organizers of this event, which is, of course, Festival della Diplomacia. And of course, I hope to have Dr. Giorgio Bartolucci later. So my thanks to them. And my special thanks to all of you for being here today. I feel so young and energized being with you all because when I see young faces, I remember when I was a student before in Malaysia, how excited I was to go through the whole process of learning. And for me, I think this is an incredible time in your life because this is where you get to really, I would say, start your life in terms of studying and, of course, getting to know the different friends and, of course, your colleagues, future colleagues in your various fields. I want to also say that, looking at you, I can see the future of Italy. I've been in Italy for 3 years, and when I look at all of you today, I see what a great future Italy has. Looking at your vibrant faces, looking at your excited faces, Italy is a great country. I've been here for 3 years, like I said, experienced so much in Italy. I've traveled, of course, in my work for the past 20 years, and I must say Italy to me is special because you're a unique country. You resemble in some sense Malaysia because you have different cultures, different foods in different parts of Italy. And all of you here represent what Italy can do in the future. So you have a great responsibility with yourselves. I can see some, I would say maybe prime ministers, some presidents perhaps, some politicians, some corporate figures among you all. So please keep up that enthusiasm. Italy needs you, so you need to continue to work hard so that you can deliver. And for those who are coming from different parts of the world, of course, you also have a responsibility to develop your countries. And I always say that to young people because you are the future. And without you all, Italy will not be able to continue to develop to what it is now. Having said that, also, I would like to also touch on today's topic, which is, of course, expectations really for the unexpected, skills, and of course, what you need for the future and tools for the future. Now, for me, I'm going to touch more in terms of what I experienced in my career. Obviously, you can get a lot from your own studying in terms of the various theories, but for me, something personal to me, what I learned throughout my career as a diplomat, and what is important, that I feel that brought me to what I am today. You know? Can I have the slides, please? Yeah. Okay. Well, the first thing I want to say to all of you is, please practice your art of communication. Communication is key, because for me, in my line of work, whenever we carry out our tasks, we found that the art of communication allows you to relay your message clearly and achieve results. Now, this is, of course, a learning experience. When I first started my service, obviously I learned from my seniors, how do I communicate? And of course, communication doesn't only rely in terms of a day-to-day lives. It relies also in your work, your families, and your institutions. And if you look at it in a broader context, in terms of the global perspective, how do you communicate? For instance, I'm sure you know that Italy is chairing the G20, president of G20 now. How would Prime Minister Draghi communicate his policies and his vision to the leaders of the other countries? And this is the art of communication. How do you convince? How do you relay the messages? And of course, in this context, you must realize that we come from different cultures. The art of communication varies from one culture to the other culture. What is proper here may not be proper in Asia, for instance, and vice versa. But I think what is important is you have to be clear so that people understand what you want to relate to. My experience, for instance, in the United Nations, Malaysia was a member of the UN Security Council in 2015. And of course, during that time, as members of the UNSC and also as a president of UNSC at one point in time, we had to, of course, pass resolutions. And when you pass resolutions, you need to convince countries. You have 25 member countries of United Nations, 15 plus 5, of course, the permanent reps. You need to convince them of what you're trying to push to them. So how do you do it? Through communication, to negotiation, to talking to them. And sometimes if you go, some of you later on may want to join the political or diplomatic circles, diplomats sometimes argue about one sentence or even one word. Why do we do that? Because each word and each sentence may bring a different connotation to different people. No? For instance, the word agroecology. Agroecology is not accepted in some countries, Latin America. They don't agree with the definition of it. So we need to discuss and talk to them and say, let's come to a compromise. Let's come to an understanding how we want to bring this matter forward. So, my dear friends, communication is very important. What I'm talking to you now is the art of communication. So as you go on in your life, you must ensure that you are able to impart your messages clearly to your stakeholders. And it's very important, I think. And of course, this comes from experience, as I mentioned before. Now, the second thing is, of course, analytical skills. And this, of course, you will learn over time. I mean, your work, of course, your studies in the university, what you're doing now, how you analyze situation, how you analyze the issues that are in front of you. And this, of course, is important because how you analyze will, of course, influence how you deliver your arguments to everyone else. I'm sure you have done group works in your or study groups. So it's important that you have the ability to analyze clearly. And of course, this comes over time. As you go on in your life, if you gain more knowledge, you will be able to analyze the situation clearly and find how you can connect the dots between one situation and the other situation. Now, being in the foreign service or in the diplomatic circles, where you're always accounted by different issues happening all around the world, global issues, climate change, for instance, digitalization, for instance. But in all these issues, there are some common denominators, So you need to analyze how would this particular denominator affect the issue itself. So that is also a key, I would say, a key policy or a key position which I feel is very important for you. Obviously, in your day-to-day lives, even in your family life, for instance, when a person does something or performs something, you may need to analyze, why did the person do that? Why did she carry out certain actions? So, and it could have there could be a reason behind it, either to environment or because of personal issues, or so on and so forth. A simple way to look at it. No? So always remember that your analytical skills will bring you far. So you need to analyze any situation, obviously from the macro perspective, and of course from the micro perspective. And this, I believe, is also important as you further develop in your careers and of course in your life. No? Number 3, of course, technology. Now, all of us faced the pandemic in last year, 2020. And due to the pandemic, we had to change our way of working. For diplomats like me, we needed to use Zoom, became our meeting corner. How do we communicate through or raise our issues with our counterparts? So technology helped us to carry out our task. And I think as students, as future leaders, you need to understand this technology has a big impact on terms of how things will move from now on. For instance, in FAO, which I'm also part of, the use of blockchain technology, blockchain technology. This is a new concept where, producers can actually log into the technology, allows you to track the produce from farm right up to consumer. So this is a new technology. And as you go on in your careers, you realize that more and more new technologies are being developed. Climate change, for instance. I visited a company in Italy quite recently where they can actually pinpoint the soil immersion in terms of how much moisture it has. And it allows the farmer to be able to water it properly and ensure maximum efficient use of the minerals. So these are technologies. Of course, different fields uses different technology. But I think for us to be able to move on in the next the 21st century, 22nd century, you need to, of course, master this technology. And I think for students of your caliber, this would not be a difficulty for you because you are young and you have new technologies that you use. Perhaps any of you can share what technologies do you think is going to be important for you? For instance, what do you think in terms of technology? What would be the most prudent for you, for instance, at the moment? Social media, for instance. You use Facebook. Snapchat. Yeah. See? So I never use Snapchat. I do not know how to use it. Of course, I heard about it, but I never use it. But this is a new way of communicating for you. So these are the technologies you need to learn and need to use as you go on in life. And it's so important because I believe if any career, any task you perform, technology is going to have a big impact. For instance, the elections which Barack Obama won in president's election, one of the major reasons why he won, of course, is because of use of social media. And that's technology. At that point in time, people never thought of using social media, but he was the master of using it and allowing him to win the elections. Because the young generation preferred that mode of communication. So that shows how important technology is. And as you go forward in your life, I think you need to understand that and try to master this technology, not only for yourself, but also for Italy. And Italy, for instance, I must say, I've been here for some time and the technology in Italy is amazing. Your digitalization, your robotics, 4IR, for instance, if you go to some of the companies, you have a chance to visit how to use robotics to manufacture. And this is all technology, new technologies. And the world is going to depend on this as you go on in the future. Number 4, seize the opportunity. Now, this I think is very important because you will have a lot of opportunities coming before you the next 10, 15 years. So be prepared to seize any opportunity you can to experience and to learn. Because if you do not do that, you will not be able to achieve what you want to achieve. What I mean by seize by opportunity, if let's say you are given experience to travel somewhere and you're thinking two thoughts about it, but seize it. Because as young people, young generation, it's your time to do this. Seizing any opportunity come your way to develop yourselves. Because by not seizing this opportunity, you will not be able to achieve the greatness you did. Now, I had a choice of becoming a diplomat or a banker. I mean, I have nothing against bankers. I think bankers are great. But I chose to be a diplomat. Because I seized the opportunity and it made me grow to a different path. You know, when I was the esteemed chair mentioned about my role as special officer, I was a special officer for a minister, for 3 ministers for 10 years. And I've traveled the world. Obviously, maybe in a country I spent 3 or 4 days, but you know, I've seen almost every corner of the world. And that was exciting for me because I learned, I developed the skills. And if I did not seize the opportunity to do that, I would not be here now. Now, like this example, I went to Argentina, my first trip to Argentina. And I was impressed with the pampas. You know, have you seen pampas? Pampas is kind of a field filled with rows of maize, and it's flat all around for miles and miles. You know, when I saw that, I realized, look, if I've never done that before, I've never joined the civil service or did what I wanted to do. I've been to Machu Picchu, I've been to Rio, Sao Paulo, I've been to Iceland, to US, of course. In many other in Africa, I served in Africa for 3 years, and I've traveled to Benin, to places which I never would have gone if I never took the courage to seize the opportunity. So as young people, it's important in your life as you go forward to seize any opportunity you can. Even if it's a small opportunity, but don't let the chance go. Obviously, you have to weigh other issues, of course, but I think if that's the case, you'll go far. Now, open to ideas, and this is very important, you know, because we all think we know everything. You know, we all think we know everything. I thought I know everything anyway, but I realized, look, I knew, you know, this one part of what the rest of the world knows. And in my travels to different parts of the world, I realized that, you know, there's so much you need to learn, so much more you need to learn, and open your minds, you know. For instance, when you do, if you're in the private sector, example, how people conduct business in Italy is different from how you conduct business in China. You know, here we have very close contact. For instance, if I talk to you, I'll come very close to you. Right? In China, they have a fear of, you know, coming too close because for them it's not acceptable. There is this multicultural differences as you approach. So you have to be open. You have to be open. You have to accept that things are different, but at the same time, there's beauty in this difference. You know, beauty in this difference, because what you think is beauty for you may not be for them, but at the same time, if you learn their way of living, you realize there's something special there also. You know, see, example, before I came to Italy, you know, I had in Malaysia, we have pastas, you know, we love pastas. But when I came here, I realized that how we cook pasta in Malaysia is entirely different from what we do it here. Cashew pepe, for instance, I never tried it before I came here. I found it incredible. In Malaysia, al dente is not something we do because it's more softer. Here you do al dente. But again, it's a simple examples, you know. For instance, bowing. If you go to Korea or you go to, for instance, Japan, the art of bowing is common. It's normal. You know? Everyone bows to each other. When I was in Japan, I was bowing all the time. So much so when I went back to Malaysia, I started bowing to my friends and they said, "What the hell are you doing?" So they say, "What are you doing? Why are you bowing to me?" But, you know, this is a cultural difference, you know. So I think you need to realize that you have to be open. You know, never close your mind. If you close your mind, then you will not develop. Some things, for instance, clear example of what's happening in certain countries in the world, change of regime. Obviously, these are things that are current, you know. But how do we overcome this? So we have to be open to discuss, to dialogue, to talk, to understand, and perhaps find out ways to find a compromise. You know, issues like Afghanistan, for instance, I know it's a very sensitive issue. what's happening. For instance, I won't mention other sensitive developments, but we have to be able to understand where they're coming from. And of course, at sometimes push or discuss our position so that we can come to a compromise in terms of how to approach the issue. Enrich your knowledge. This is very important. How many of you read every day? Obviously, you have to be students, But other than your books, do you read anything else? You read anything else? Besides your studies, what do you read? Psychological, okay. Good. You see, knowledge doesn't come only through books, but also to experiences. But the art of knowledge is the art of acquiring additional information. So you must read, you must listen, you must experience, Because, I started reading, of course, when I was at university, I read a lot of books. But obviously, it's not enough because that doesn't give you the amount of knowledge required. As you go on in life, try to read as much as you can, experience as much as you can. And once you have done that, it will allow you to be able to understand and experience new things, at the same time deliver and help your careers. I always tell to inform my fellow friends and the younger than me now, of course, to read your daily papers every day, because we cannot confine your mind and your knowledge to what's happening locally. You have to look at the global world, what's happening elsewhere in the world. Issues like, for instance, digitalization, climate change, for instance. In Milan recently, Italy organized the COP26 for youths. Do you read about it? Some of the comments made by the youths. So these are things that will impact how you're going to deliver or learn or deliver your messages, Because you need to be aware of your surroundings, and how to do that is just to understand and acquire knowledge. So you'll be able to deliver and, of course, argue your position clearly. Of course, this depends on your different fields. But if you're a lawyer, you need to know as much as possible of the law. If you're a doctor, you need to know new technologies that comes out. And this is only acquired through constant learning. So my dear friends, it's important for you to continue to learn. Learning is a whole life process, It can be anything, can be through books, through experiences, to your family, your friends, to travel, for instance. So as you go on in life, please continue to develop and enrich your knowledge. Now, okay, this is very important in my line of work. Practice cross-cultural, cross-sectoral, and multi-dimensional approach. Always remember that whatever issue you have at the present moment, because we are currently in the global world, issues are cross-dimensional. They are cross-cultural. They're no longer confined to your locality. What happens here today has direct implication on what happens in another part of the world. For instance, on climate change in Rio, for instance, we spoke about zero emissions. Why? Because it's a conference being discussed millions of miles away, but the idea of zero emissions not only touches one country, but it goes across the world. The current the current heat wave you're facing, or the current catastrophes to tsunami and all these things, all are attributed to climate change, but it is not localized. Whatever happens in one region, one country, has a direct effect to another country. And so you need to understand that this is important. As you go on forward, obviously some of you will, of course, work in fields that require to understand the different cross-cultural and cross-sectoral dimensions. But you need to learn how to connect the dots, when I was back in Malaysia, we handled a lot of issues pertaining, for instance, to politics. For instance, issue in Myanmar, for instance. Obviously, I'm going to touch specific aspects, but it's a cross-dimension, cross-cultural situation, because, whatever happens in Myanmar affects ASEAN. We have 10 countries in ASEAN, and whatever happens in ASEAN affects the different regions in the world, because you have, for instance, in ASEAN, the free trade area, and EU has an agreement with ASEAN free trade area. So one country in ASEAN, for instance, has an issue, human rights issues or political issues, it will affect the trade agreements, because you can't trade in a clear way. So that's why I'm saying you need to connect the dots. And this comes through experience. How do you connect one issue to another issue and try to find a common, I would say, denominator? So this will, of course, as I said, come through experience. Never look at an issue just by the issue itself. Try to connect that issue with another issue and see how, what I mean is think outside of the box. You know, that's very important. I mean, like I said, it comes from experience. But for me, I found it very important because I can understand issue from a different perspective, different dimension. And don't forget, of course, cross-cultural, points. And finally, leadership. Now, this is something, an acquired skill. You are not born leaders. Of course, you learn how to become a leader. And, each one of you will play this role in different points in your life. For instance, in the family level, you have, of course, husband and wife. Sometimes the husband thinks he's a leader. Most of the time he's not. You have to say for a fact. And sometimes the wife will lead, and sometimes the children will lead. So it's a process of trying to see the best way forward in terms of how you want to achieve a certain objective. So try to use and try to learn this art of leadership. But ladies and gentlemen, you must also remember, you cannot be leaders all the time. At points, you will be also followers. You move from becoming a follower to a leader. Depends if you work in a team, sometimes you'll be a leader. Sometimes you'll be a follower. But the most important point is try to achieve the objective of the mission that you want to achieve. And for me, I think leadership plays a very big role in this. I mean, as you know, Prime Minister Draghi, since he came to office, you see how much changes has occurred. I'm not saying the previous Prime Minister did not do that. No, they did. But most of the feedback we have about Prime Minister Draghi now is excellent. He has done so much. And why? Because he has leadership skills, which he, of course, learned over the years, but is able to galvanize the team to come together, country to come together to achieve a certain objective. And you can see now, this quarter, the results, GDP is expected to grow in Italy by 6%. 6%, that's amazing. For me, I think that's very good. And you have stability in the country. You have stability in the country, and that's good for Italy. Not only for Italy, for EU and for the world, and also for Malaysia. So, ladies and gentlemen, leadership is something that you need to hone. But like I said, you move between leadership and followers, but on the situation itself, a leader requires to make difficult decisions. He or she needs to make difficult decisions. And that's where I hope all of you will, of course, one day, achieve this quality. And there's one more, I didn't put it there. I thought it was, I want to share on a personal experience, it's political acumen. For those who are interested to join politics, or even as a diplomat, you need to understand that political acumen is important. What we civil servants see on paper may not be how the politicians think, how they approach issues, because they have different stakeholders. So you need to, I think you need to understand how politics also play a role in your work. For instance, in the office, let's not talk about government, let's talk in your office politics, or even in your classrooms, the politics between both of you, or some of you, in the team, that's also part and parcel of politics, and you have to understand that, how to master it, how to, understand how it affects how you carry your task. So, of course, understand, again, this is something that you need to learn over the years, but I hope, as time goes, you'll be able to achieve that. So, ladies and gentlemen, just my basic understanding of what I think is important in my role. So, we have gone through the list. But having said that, also, each person has his own way of approaching these skills and this task. But what is important is each of you are true to yourself. A final word, true to yourself, because I think end of the day, what you want to achieve is what you believe is important for you. As young people, you have years ahead of you, So be true to yourself. Think of what you want to achieve. And there is no hard and fast rule how you reach it. Some people may take 10 years, some people may take 2 years, some people may take even their lifetime. But end of the day is how you want to live your life. And for me, I hope that all of you one day will be great people for Italy, because Italy is a great country. I've always mentioned to my friend Giorgio, he's a Dr. Giorgio Bartolucci. Italy is a beautiful country, and there's a lot of things that Italy can achieve. And it's up to you people, young people of the world, of Italy, to be able to achieve it. The future depends on you, all of you. I'm almost finishing my career, perhaps 10 more years, not too long. But I think you will achieve it. Thank you very much. Grazie mille. Hey, can I just very quickly, I want to play a short video on, sorry. I just want to show you a short, before I leave, a short, small video on Malaysia. Malaysia is a country in South Asia. And, I've been, of course, wanting to show the beauty. This is part and parcel of cross-cultural understanding and what countries have that, that you want to learn from. Can we, is it possible? There's a 2-3 minutes video. Would you like to ask some questions? Yeah, sure. So finally, thank you. So the world is a beautiful place, so much to see. So I hope all of you will be able to experience it one day. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you, Ambassador, for your incredible speech. Is it okay to have some questions? That's perfect. So is there any question you want to raise? Okay. I think we can.
Your Excellency, thank you very much for for this amazing presentation. Terima kasih. Your Excellency, I'm Rani Al-Sarakabi, originally from Syria, but I spent 6 years of my life in Malaysia, and I'm from the second year of global governance. Your Excellency, living in Malaysia was a great experience for me. I learned a lot. Guys, you should truly visit Malaysia. It's a beautiful country, very diverse, beautiful. Your Excellency, you said that you spent 3 years in Italy so far. My question, we have so much to talk about, but I would like to maybe stick to our topic for today. What did Italy change in you and the Italian culture, interactions with Italians? How did it affect your personality, whether on the personal level, professional, or even the academic? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Good question. First and foremost, I've been to Syria, Damascus, twice actually. It's a beautiful place. I went, of course, 10 years ago, but I came back from Syria, of course, feeling very energized, and I think I hope good things for Syria in the future. What I learned in Italy, I realized siesta is important for me. I need to have a bit of siesta. I was joking. But I think what really touched me about Italy was the fact that how family unit is important. How family unit, because in Italy, I realized that, you may be from different regions, but the whole concept of family is something that's important for Italians. And it's the same thing for Malaysia. For Malaysia too, because family is the core unit that we always rely on. And I think Italy has that embedded in your DNA. Number two, of course, for me, in terms of the technology that Italy has. I mean, I have to say, the technology Italy has surpasses some of the other major European countries. It's just that the fact that it needs to be brought out to the world, be informed to the world that Italy has this. And I think now they're doing it. Issues, I mean, I've seen your satellites, for instance. I've been to some of these companies that produce satellites, that manufacture satellites, and you have state-of-the-art technology. It's just that reaching out to the world and saying, look, Italy has this, come. That's where I think Italy needs to improve. But I've learned that Italy is a multi-diverse, faceted society. I've been to Sicily, for instance. I've been to up north to Turin, and the cultures and the environment differs greatly. But what again brings me together is the fact that Italy is still a nation that comes together when things get difficult. For instance, what happens during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, you may be from different parts of the country, but you all came together. I felt very safe here when I was going through the pandemic. And I mean, in my place, where I live, people came out. They couldn't leave the house, but they started singing from the corridors, from the houses, and that really it shows what Italy has. So for me, I think what I'll bring back again is the values of family that you have, the values of and the technology that you have, and also the perseverance of the society itself as Italians coming together. Like I said, I know there's differences between the different regions, but by and all, I think the diversity, sort of complements the country. And the same thing in Malaysia. We have different races. We have Malaysian, we have Indian, we have Chinese, but we try to live together and come together as one society. And I think Italy has the uniqueness about it. And of course, I'm not going to mention the word food. The food is, I mean, I fell in love with Italian food the moment I came here. I mean, so much so I started putting on weight. So now I have to watch my weight. I still am trying to watch my weight anyway. But yeah, Italy has to share this to the world, to try to, let more people in the world know that Italy has this uniqueness, and of course, its technology, and of course, it's many great things. And I again would like to urge young people like you to do it, to make sure that you are able to do it. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dear Ambassador, thank you so much for your inspiring speech. My name is Evelina Forkin. I'm coming from Russia, and I'm a second-year student of Global Governance Program. Talking today about experiences, I wanted to ask you two things. First is the best experience you've lived through, like your diplomatic career, and the second one, the hardest decision you had to make during your diplomatic career. Thank you very much.
I can answer it because I forget. Yeah. Sorry, good question. Which part of Russia are you from? St. Petersburg. I've been to Moscow, not to St. Petersburg, but I think again, it's a huge country with so much beauty in it. So, thank you. So the first question was, again, I repeat it again. Best experience, okay. Best experience in Italy. There's so many of them. I can't really pinpoint one particular one, you know. I guess the first thing that came to mind was the fact that I was invited by a family the week after I arrived in Italy for dinner. And for me, that was a unique start to my whole career here because, you know, in some countries when you go to get invited to someone's house and make you feel at home, it's not easy. But here, in the first week, I was invited and I had a beautiful time, you know. Of course, it lasted very early in the morning because I realized now here you start dinner at 9 o'clock and not at 7 in Malaysia. In Malaysia, we do it quite early, but here, you know, dinner starts 9 and then you go on for a few courses and then you have your grappas and of course, you know, your amaros and everything, and then maybe a bit of cigars or something. So, but you know, that was one unique experience. The others, of course, was my travels around Italy. You know, Sicily was a unique experience for me because I found the difference between Rome and Sicily in terms of the culture and how they approach life and how they see time, for instance. Obviously, I also the experience I first witnessed when I visited some of the major companies here that has, like I said, technologies, and that opened up my eyes and my mind to what Italy has, you know, and this sort of gave me the ability to understand more about the country. And that's why as young students, I think, like I said, immerse yourself. If you travel, immerse yourself in the culture and the history in the country itself. Okay, history is another factor. You know, my first time to Colosseum, I was spellbound. And today, as I came into your building here, and I saw these beautiful artworks, I was just imagining it hundreds of years ago. Somebody actually was drawing this, and you are here now looking at it. So that's for me, it's incredible. I was in in Modena last week, and of course, we visited Maserati. If you have, but hopefully, you can afford one day the MC20. It's a fantastic car. It's a state-of-the-art super sports car. But after that, we visited a family-run, a family traditional. They produce balsamic vinegar. It's called Leonardi, I think. And you know, they had balsamic vinegar aged 150 years. 150 years ago, somebody bottled white and red wine together to form this balsamic vinegar. And 150 years later, we tried it here. You know, and the taste, of course, like honey, and it costs, I mean, I just had one small spoonful, you know, didn't pay for it, but it's very expensive. But the idea is like, historically, I mean, I would say Italy relies a lot on tradition and culture and, of course, history. And I think that's uniquely Italian. I mean, I never experienced balsamic vinegar 150 years old. You should try if you have the chance and visit Leonardi if you can. And your second question is again? Yeah, there's a few actually. Don't get me wrong. I mean, these are all due to work. You know, in the diplomatic world, sometimes you tend to make decisions which I would say morally, or even I would say in terms of your convictions may not be right, but you may need to make the decision for the greater good. You know, because sometimes you have, you know, in negotiations, you have red lines. Some red lines you cannot cross. Because if you do cross red line, which means you are not achieving what you set out to achieve. But sometimes because there's too many factors and too many interests, you need to sometimes cross a bit, not too much though. And sometimes this leaves you with a sort of a disappointing feeling. For instance, when you talk about some of these agreements or some of the negotiations we have for Rio, for instance, some of negotiating climate change, we may not agree on these things, but sometimes, or either morally or even conviction may not agree, but you need to make the decision because it's for the greater good, no? You know, because if not, you will not achieve anything at all. So it's better to achieve a certain lowest common denominator than the one you set high. Well, I mean, personally, I in terms of my life, I think I did not really have any serious, I would say, difficult moments in decision. But sometimes, of course, family, you know, of course, in my case, I'm not really regretting it now. You know, obviously, just to inform you, I'm still single. I mean, not to put it out there, but my work, you know, didn't allow me to have a sort of a whole family background. But that should not stop you from doing that, because you can achieve everything. You know, for me, this was my best decision, so I'm happy with it, and of course, I'm living through it, of course, now. So, thank you.
Ambassador, I wanted to thank you for your presence today, and I would like to pose two questions. The first is this. Malaysia is an interethnic country. Many groups live in peace. Do you have a law about gender equality, ethnic equality, or whatever in the diplomatic world or also in the society? And the second question is more economical and political. What does it feel to have a small country like Singapore, very close to you, that once belonged to Malaysia, that now is a tiger, economical, financial tiger, and you are just attached to Singapore and not maybe performing at the same way? Thank you.
Good questions. I mean, I'm always afraid of his questions because it's very intellectual, no? So anyway, he's a good friend of Malaysia, a good friend of ASEAN. We participate in the Festival della Diplomacia for many years, and I again want to thank you for opportunity for us to participate. I'll answer the second one first in terms of Singapore. Rightly said, Singapore is of course an advanced country. You know, we cannot dispute the fact they have done very well. But at the same time, I always feel that countries in ASEAN complement one another. For instance, Singapore, being a tiger of Singapore, they also work with Malaysia in terms of developing Malaysia and vice versa. Because, for instance, in Johor, we have a development project under the Malaysian government, which promotes industrialization, which promotes industrial areas. So Singapore, which is of course a small nation, would not have enough space. So the industries are then developed in Malaysia, manufacturing, whereas the research hubs are in Singapore. So you see the idea of complementarily is prosper thy neighbor. Obviously in ASEAN, we look at the factor how we can develop the whole region together, because if one country develops and the other one doesn't, it doesn't speak well for the whole region itself. So that's why I think Singapore is developed, yes, but at the same time, it's a duty of countries in ASEAN to work with Singapore to develop everyone at the same time. So in Malaysia, we believe in complementarity, prosper thy neighbor. And I think that's an important philosophy, and Malaysian government has always worked on that, because Singapore is a developed country. You have Indonesia, which is also a powerhouse. You have Malaysia in between. And you have Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, also a powerhouse also. And Laos and Cambodia also needs development. So I think the way forward would be to utilize the different comparative advantages between the different countries and use it to develop the whole region in one go. So we don't feel inferior. In fact, we feel as if there is a sense of competition, but healthy competition, in order to achieve prosperity for the whole region. I think that's very important. That's why even youngsters like you, if you see someone else doing well, don't be demotivated. I mean, that should drive you to work even harder to achieve your objectives, you know. Because at the end of the day, everyone has their own rate of development. And of course, most important, I think, for me is sustainability, number one. Stability, number one. And peace. There's no point having a developed countries but don't have peace and prosperity. And I think that's the ultimate aim anyway. If you speak to, for instance, a farmer in Malaysia, what he would look at is prosperity for his family, for his community, and of course peace. And I think that's what we all strive for anyway. So let's utilize the differences and of course the advantage each one has, and comparatively to bring up the whole region. The first question, good question. You see, this issue of gender equality, of course, this is Chatham House rules. Huh? Yeah, this is Chatham House rules, I hope. Chatham House rules, what I'm going to say. For me, I believe in gender equality, of course. I mean, this is Chatham House rules off record. Huh? But of course, you also must understand in certain cultures, in certain countries where religion and culture plays a role, the whole issue of gender equality is something that needs to be further developed. I mean, countries in Europe, for instance, of course, they started hundreds of years ago, and gender equality have risen up to the level of this now. But again, at the same time, certain countries are still catching up. They need to go through the process. It takes time. So that's why I think in Malaysia, we focus a lot on gender empowerment. We have, in the Malaysian cabinet, we have so many women ministers. Parliaments, we have women ministers. So women in Malaysia have a special role. No? They are in a lot of cases very accomplished. Even we have CEOs in Malaysia who are women, major CEO, major companies. So gender empowerment is how we proceed in Malaysia. At the same time, of course, the process of gender equality needs to also go in tandem with it. But it will take a process. Like I said, you have to factor in religious connotations. You have to factor in cultural connotations. For instance, in some countries in East Asia, for instance, women, although they have the same equality in paper, but in terms of how they perform or the family dynamics is different. So what you have in policy and in paper may not actually translate to how the situation on the ground is. But I think it's better for us to be sincere and work towards a proper equality. And for me, I support all women. They always say that in any family, the man who is a general, he makes the general decisions. The woman who is a major makes the major decisions. So you think about it, who actually makes the decisions? So anyway, to all women, you have my support, and of course, I hope all of you achieve great things, and I hope the glass ceiling will break one day. And of course, strides are being done so much, and I think the future will be bright. Thank you.
No answer. No answer. One more question.
Dear Ambassador, first of all, I would like to thank you for your presentation. It was really inspiring. My name is Nicola Garofalo. I come from Italy and I'm a GG2 student. My question for you is, in your experience, what was the best place in all your travels to work in?
Easy question, Italy. Very easy. This is sincere. I have nothing against other countries. I love all countries. Sure. But trust me, Italy, I will come back to Italy after I retire for sure. For sure. Because I made a lot of friends. I love the country. I think it's amazing. And, it's like a second home for me. So thank you.
Good afternoon, Ambassador. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure for us to have you here in presence. Having seen the video, it's wonderful to see how much nature there is over there. And I was wondering about two articles that I've read before when I came here. And the first one is Malaysia's cities are heating up, recording temperature increases of up to 6.7 degrees Celsius over the last 2 decades. And furthermore, forest reserves in northeastern Johor are shrinking due to land clearing linked to economic projects, prompting concerns over the so-called elephant-human conflict. So having seen these two ways in which Malaysia sees nature, how is Malaysia dealing with it in the future?
I like
Thank
this question very much. You see, when you look at a country, you must look at it in totality. It's very important. As young students, as young people, you should not, like I said, look at a situation on one particular development. That's important because sometimes it clouds your judgment. Obviously, it could be correct what you judge, but at the same time, you have to look at the whole, looking at a bigger picture. True, in Johor, there has been clearing, like I said, the project between Singapore and Malaysia. But you see, in Malaysia, our forest cover is 65%. The whole country, 65% of forest cover, which is beyond the limit set by the Rio Declaration, which is, I think, 35 to 40%. We have 65% forest cover, the whole country. Compared to some countries in Europe, for instance, 30% forest cover. So you have to look at it in a larger perspective. It's very important. In terms of the heating up, I agree. I mean, this is something we all are facing now. It's not only because of the industrialization, but also because of climate change, And don't forget that we are in that region, which is a fast-growing, I would say, region. And of course, this would mean that the manufacturing concerns are, of course, high. But having said that, I think most countries in Asia, including Malaysia, has signed up to the Rio Declaration. We are very actively participating in the COP26. We are setting very stringent measures in terms of how we produce, for instance, palm oil. And there's a lot of issues about palm oil now, you can see. But in Malaysia, we have the Malaysian, I would say, palm oil standardization, MRSPO, which sets a sustainable process of production for palm oil. So any palm oil we export anywhere in the world is sustainable palm oil. So there are policies in place in trying to reduce the effect on the environment, reduce the effect on climate change. But again, I think, like I said, it's a work in progress. We have still a way to go, but we are quite happy what we've achieved now. And more policies are being put in place because, like I said, we don't live in one society. You see, whatever happens, for instance, Malaysia trades heavily with EU. So EU's policies in terms of climate change and sustainable development needs, of course, be in tandem with Asia and, of course, with Malaysia. But at the same time, there must be a level playing field, no? Because it's important because countries in Europe have developed to a certain extent, they're able to achieve that. But countries in Asia are developing, so there has to be a level playing field. That's why I feel that this idea of, I would say, differentiated responsibilities, if you start reading, you come from negotiations in FAO and UN, they have this issue of the statement differentiated responsibilities. Because different countries and different regions have different responsibilities toward the environment because of different level of development. If you go to Africa, you ask countries in Africa to implement the level of or the level of measures that you have done in Europe, they will not be able to do it because they're still at the level where they need to grow to achieve that level. So you need to understand that, But obviously, having said that, I think environment is very important. We all must work towards trying to reduce the effects of climate change. And I hope the COP26 in Glasgow in November will achieve great results. I think most important is an ambitious outcome. And again, because the future of the climate, the world depends on you all. So you will be the mouthpiece for us in the coming years. But thank you very much again. Thank you. It was wonderful meeting all of you. And sorry, if you ever happen to pass by Embassy of Malaysia, please let me know. I'd love to have some time to chat with you and of course, meet with all of you again. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity. Hope to see you again.
Ma funziona? Come back. Can you hear me? Okay. Come back at 2:10. Okay?